I, 25F, went to my friend's wedding tonight and was seated next to a mutual, Beth, 30F, and her husband Josh, 29M. We used to all be in the same friend group, but Beth and I had a falling out a few months ago, so I hadn't seen them since. I noticed Josh was being pretty passive-aggressive towards me tonight. For example, when he got up to get a drink, he asked everyone except me whether they would like one as well and made it a point to skip over me. I didn't take offense to this, but I did notice him doing things like that all night. At one point though, the whole table was cracking jokes and Josh kept making racially charged comments for laughs. He was making some awful jokes about black people being criminals and cotton pickers. I put up with all the other stuff, but the comments really upset me, especially considering my boyfriend is black. As everyone was laughing, I said, "I don't get the joke. Can you explain it to me?" Everyone at the table went kinda quiet and he awkwardly said he was just making a joke. I didn't back down and said, "Yeah, I just don't get it." "Why is it funny?" It was awkward until someone changed the topic. The bride and groom weren't around for this conversation, so I just got up to say goodbye and went home. After I left, I started getting texts from other people in the friend group saying I made everyone uncomfortable and I shouldn't have said anything because it's a wedding and they were just having fun. Beth went off on me, saying she and her husband didn't know my boyfriend is black since they never met him and he couldn't make it tonight, so it was really unfair of me to embarrass him when he's really a good guy. I do feel kind of bad for shaming him in front of people, especially at our friend's wedding, but he was really getting on my nerves and felt defensive of my partner. So aita for embarrassing someone at a wedding for making racist jokes? Next story. So I, 24M, am getting married this summer to my beautiful fiancé Holly, 25F. I am an only child. My mom and dad I always felt like had a very good relationship from the outside. But when I was 14 my mom cheated on my dad with a family friend. Absolutely broke my dad, and my mom became almost unrecognizable afterwards. She was a great mom and always felt like she was affectionate with my dad. But she became cold right after everything came out. My parents tried counseling but my dad couldn't look at her. The divorce was horrible. My mom went after my dad so hard. Tried to get majority custody, tried to financially fuck him over too. And on top of everything she kept dating the family friend. I told her from day one that I wouldn't be dealing with her anymore if she kept dating that guy. So around 15 I started living with my dad full-time. He was still in a vulnerable spot. But together we started working out, and doing things to keep him busy. It took years but my dad got back to his old self. I spoke to my mom occasionally even though she lived a couple blocks away. She would call all the time and try to meet up. But I basically told her to fuck off and to start a new family. Because I had no interest in being around someone like her. Well, 9 months ago me and Holly got engaged. My dad asked if I planned on letting my mom know. I told him I didn't and I wouldn't be inviting her to the wedding. Well, I guess he took it upon himself to call my mom up and inform her. And then they started talking. 3 months ago I show up to my dad's and him and my mom are there. They sit me down and tell me that they have been dating. I called him dumb, pathetic and reminded him of all the things mom did to him. How she's probably only back because she's out of money and places to go. My mom tried to intervene and I told her to STFU. I told my dad that he can do whatever he wants. But I'm not gonna sit by and support it. And we worked together to get him back. So I felt like he wasn't valuing himself or me. My mom has been trying to get an invite to the wedding. But I told my dad it's simple. Your invite is a solo invite with mom. A+1 if you bring any other human being. My dad is distraught, according to relatives. Because he feels like he has to choose between his only kid and his wife. I told my dad that it was gonna be like this from now on. Any holiday would be a solo invite. I wouldn't be bringing my grandkids around his house if my mom was there. So he needed to think carefully. My mom's side of the family has started trashing me. I told them if they couldn't understand my position then they better not show up either. So I uninvited all the relatives that were giving me shit on my mom's side. My fiancé is totally understanding. But we want to make sure so we made this post. Next story. Throwaway and longtime lurker, first-time poster here. I should preface this by saying that my 27F sister, 33F, pawns her children, 2F and 10 months F, off to other people to watch at any chance she gets. When I say pawns off, I mean she doesn't even ask first before just leaving her children and walking off. Be it to our 16-year-old cousin on big family holidays or our mom whenever she visits. Yesterday, I was due to see my mother lives in for a visit and to give her a few gifts that I had for her. In the morning, I got a call from my mom asking me if I could go and pick up a dress and earrings that my mom had lent to my sister. When I got there, my sister gave me the dress and earrings and offered me a quick cup of coffee while her babies were playing in their bouncer chairs. I accepted as my mom doesn't mind what time I rock up at hers. After we chatted for a bit, my sister got up and left me alone in the room with the babies. I waited for a moment and then saw my sister go out the front door saying, "I'll be back soon." Before I could even open my mouth to reply, she's out the door and getting in her car to drive off. I called my mom and told her everything. I could tell that my mom was getting worked up with everything I said to her. My mother and I spend a few moments bitching about my sister and we come incredibly close to calling CPS. I then decide to do something a bit petty and stupid. I warn my mom about what I'm going to do and she tells me it probably isn't a good idea but doesn't try to stop me. I spent the next 3 hours looking after the kids. Eventually, I saw my sister's car coming up the road. I put the babies where she left them and then walked out the back door as my sister came up to the front to make her think that her house had been empty apart from the kids. Predictably, my sister called me, furious and screaming about how I abandoned her kids for hours and how one of them was forced to suffer with a dirty diaper. Apparently she soiled herself as I was leaving and I hadn't noticed, and how shocking my behavior was. I told her that she abandoned her kids and asked her why she assumed I was up for babysitting. She screamed some more and hung up. When I got to Mom's, my mom informed me that my sister called her to complain about me and my mom covered for me and asked my sister, "At what point did my name agree to babysit for you?" You remember, I mentioned our 16-year-old cousin? Well, today, I found out that my sister also went complaining to his father and he gave her a piece of his mind as well. My sister called up my mom again and this time began crying about how her own family hates her and about how hard it is to be a single mother. Her husband works abroad most of the year, so this is practically the case. I feel like I've created a knock-on effect on the whole family, but my mom and uncle keep reassuring me that my sister got what she deserved. Next story. Okay, so here's the situation. My fiancé's parents, my in-laws, aren't approving of our relationship. We asked why, tried to work it out but to no avail. The drama started once we announced our engagement and sent out wedding invitations. My fiancé's parents lost their invitations after threatening to show up and ruin the wedding. But since the wedding will be held at my house, then I won't guarantee that provoking their invitations will stop them. Matter of fact, that made them more pissed. I kept stressing about that, and since our budget could barely cover wedding expenses, I figured hiring security guards won't be possible. I met up with my sister and her cop husband, we're not close, days ago at my parents' house. I told them what's been going on with my in-laws and asked my brother-in-law if he could secure the wedding and stand watch from start to finish to make sure no shit shows or interruptions will happen. For some reason, the room went radio silence. My brother-in-law just stared at me and then covered his mouth like he was pissed or something. I explained again how much of wackos my in-laws are basically, and I'm just trying to make sure my wedding won't get ruined. He kept quiet, but I told him it's my only way and he perhaps should say yes because of my financial situation. My sister asked me to follow her to the kitchen, then went off on me saying I went way out of line and should stop treating her husband as my servant, and expecting him to do whatever I want just because I felt bold enough to ask. She also said she was appalled that I'd even consider making my brother-in-law play security guard and not attend the wedding like any other decent guest. I argued that I only asked because he has background when it comes to taking extra precautions, and also I cannot afford to hire a professional security. That would be a bad idea cause my friends will start asking questions. But if it's my brother-in-law who's experienced in dealing with these kind of situations and knows how to de-escalate, then that's a win-win. She said I offended him and disrespected him and her as well, then told me he doesn't have to do anything for me and my problems are mine to deal and not his to worry about. I said fine, but I won't be welcoming him at the wedding then. She berated me saying I'm being an opportunist and walked out. They left shortly and my parents said I really shouldn't have asked, then pressed the issue by saying brother-in-law isn't welcome to the wedding if he says no. Next story. Just a year ago, my sister, Chloe, 18F, used to be the golden child, and, while I, 15F, wasn't ignored completely, it was obvious my parents were prouder of her than of me. That was until she failed her exams and went completely off the rails. Smoking, going to clubs even though she was underage, etc., etc. She became your typical rebellious teen, and my parents tried everything they could to stop her behavior: therapy, rehab, punishments, but nothing helped and she just became worse. Her relationship with my parents becomes seriously strained, and they more or less ignore her and just leave her to do whatever she wants. This means that they focus on me more, and I know how jealous it makes her. Our birthdays are 3 days apart, 23rd and the 26th of March. And on my 15th my parents bought me a lot of gifts, took me out to wherever I wanted to go, and just made my day amazing. However, for Chloe's 18th, my parents gave her a £50 gift card. When she saw the gift she blew up and started yelling that it was unfair to get her such a cheap gift after they spent hundreds on me. My parents told her to be grateful she's even getting a gift after they've had to spend thousands on trying to help her, and she started crying and accused them of favoring me, and I snapped and told her to shut up because it's her fault that our parents don't care about her, and maybe if she hadn't wasted her life away things would be different. She left the house and hasn't come back since. My parents haven't really told me I was wrong, just told me I should just learn to ignore her, but some of my friends have called me a bitch and said I should apologize. I just feel like she has no right to play the victim when she literally ruined her own life, and my parents had to use so much money to try and get her back on track, but I'd like to hear some more opinions.